The airport buzzed with the usual chaos, rolling suitcases, echoing announcements, and tired travelers rushing toward their gates. Amid the crowd, a well-dressed black woman stood calmly at the security line, her poise commanding quiet confidence. But to the guards watching, her composure seemed suspicious. A murmur spread, glances exchanged, and within minutes the tension thickened. Radios crackled. Officers gathered. Whispers turned to orders. The woman's passport was taken, her bags inspected, her every move questioned. She didn't argue. She simply waited, eyes steady. Then, just as the situation reached its peak, a group of FBI agents strode through the terminal. What happened next silenced everyone in the room. Her name was Dr. Maya Ellis, an accomplished neuroscientist returning from a global summit in Geneva. She was exhausted but proud. Her presentation on cognitive bias had received a standing ovation. The airport, however, offered no applause. As she handed her passport to the security officer, she noticed the flicker of doubt in his eyes. Her credentials, her tailored white suit, her calm composure, none of it seemed to matter. The officer's polite tone masked unease, and soon another guard appeared. Then another. Maya watched as they whispered in low voices, occasionally glancing her way. She had seen this pattern before, uncertainty shifting into suspicion, and suspicion hardening into action. Around her, travelers slowed their pace, curious but unwilling to intervene. A few took out their phones, sensing that something was about to happen. A supervisor approached, his expression a mixture of authority and apology. "Ma'am, please step aside for additional screening." The line grew longer behind her, and the soft hum of airport chatter turned brittle with tension. Maya obeyed without protest. Her calmness wasn't submission, it was experience. She had learned that reacting too strongly only fueled the fire. As she waited in the cold inspection area, she couldn't help but think of the irony. Just hours ago, she had spoken about how unconscious prejudice shapes decisions in moments of uncertainty. Now she was living it, her own expertise rendered invisible by the color of her skin. When one of the guards quietly radioed for FBI verification, Maya exhaled deeply. She didn't know whether to laugh or brace herself. All she could do was stand tall and hope that this time reason would walk through the door before judgment did. The wait stretched endlessly. Every passing second felt heavier, every whisper sharper. Travelers tried to act indifferent, but their sideways glances betrayed curiosity and unease. The security staff, now joined by airport police, combed through her belongings, carefully, methodically, as though expecting to uncover something sinister. Her laptop, medical journals, and even the small bronze award from the summit were all scrutinized. Maya remained still, her eyes fixed on a distant flight schedule board, willing herself not to let the humiliation show. A female officer, young and visibly nervous, held up Maya's conference badge. "This says Dr. Ellis," she murmured, unsure whether to believe it. Another officer shrugged. "Could be fake. Happens all the time." Their words sliced through the air, quiet but deliberate, carrying the weight of assumption. Maya wanted to remind them that her identity wasn't a theory to be tested, but she knew logic didn't reach through prejudice. Not here. Meanwhile, the call to the FBI had gone through. The guards straightened their uniforms, proud of their vigilance. They were convinced they had prevented something serious. One of them even muttered about commendations. Maya heard it all. Her hands were steady, but her pulse throbbed against her wrist. She thought about her mother's warnings, how brilliance and dignity were sometimes armor too thin against ignorance. Minutes later, a voice crackled over the radio. "FBI en route." The words electrified the room. Officers shifted positions. Passengers whispered louder. Phones discreetly filmed. The once routine security checkpoint had turned into a stage, and Maya, unwillingly, its centerpiece. She stood taller, though her heart ached. She wasn't angry, she was tired. Tired of the looks, the doubt, the constant proving of her worth. Somewhere deep inside, a quiet thought surfaced. How many times must excellence defend itself before it's seen as ordinary? The echo of that question filled the sterile air as the sound of approaching footsteps grew nearer. The sound of polished shoes striking tile announced their arrival long before anyone saw them. 3 FBI agents strode through the terminal, their badges glinting beneath the fluorescent lights. The crowd parted instinctively, whispers colliding into a low, restless hum. The lead agent, tall and composed, scanned the area until his gaze locked onto Maya. His expression shifted, first recognition, then disbelief. Without hesitation, he lifted his hand in a sharp, deliberate salute. Every sound in the terminal seemed to vanish. The guards froze mid-breath. Travelers stopped filming. The lead agent stepped forward. "Dr. Ellis," he said, his tone formal yet warm. "We've been expecting you." The words struck like thunder in the silence. The officer's confusion rippled through the air, their earlier certainty unraveling in an instant. Maya didn't move. She met the agent's eyes, not with triumph, but with weary grace. The second agent, a woman, approached and offered a respectful nod. "Your work on cognitive bias has been instrumental to our training programs," she said quietly, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. The words weren't just acknowledgement, they were revelation. Around them, shame began to replace suspicion. The same officers who had treated her like a threat now stood awkwardly at attention, unsure where to look. The supervisor, who had ordered the additional screening, opened his mouth, searching for an apology that wouldn't come. Maya inhaled slowly, the air thick with irony. The very agency they had summoned to judge her now stood before her as admirers. For a fleeting moment, the room held its breath. The agents escorted her past the stunned guards, through the same checkpoint that had stripped her of dignity minutes before. She didn't glance back. Some lessons, she knew, were better left for others to replay in silence. As Maya walked beyond the checkpoint, the tension dissolved behind her, leaving only the hollow quiet of realization. The agents flanked her respectfully, their presence both shield and statement. Cameras, once raised in curiosity, now filmed with reverence. Somewhere among the crowd, a young black girl watched with wide eyes, clutching her mother's hand. In that girl's expression, Maya saw something she hadn't felt in years, hope mixed with awe. At the gate, the lead agent turned to her. "Dr. Ellis, I'm sorry you had to experience that," he said softly. Maya nodded, her voice steady. "You didn't cause it, but you can help make sure others don't." The agent's solemn silence was answer enough. They exchanged brief nods before she boarded her flight, her steps measured, her dignity intact. As the plane ascended through the clouds, Maya's thoughts drifted. She remembered every headline about suspicious travelers, every story that ended without justice, every voice silenced under the weight of assumption. This time, she had been seen, but countless others weren't so fortunate. Her mind replayed the scene, not in anger but in purpose. She decided that her next lecture wouldn't be about theory. It would be about truth. Back at the airport, the officers remained still, the gravity of their mistake settling in. None spoke. The silence was its own kind of reckoning, a quiet confrontation with the biases they had never questioned. Somewhere in that stillness, something shifted, if only slightly, because racism doesn't always scream. It often whispers through routine, hidden behind procedure, disguised as caution. And until those whispers are recognized for what they are, they will continue to echo in places like that airport terminal. The question lingered long after the plane disappeared into the horizon. How many more times must respect walk in late to a room where judgment arrived early?